From Los Angeles, the home of film and television, this is Film Music Live, a webcast featuring outstanding composers, orchestrators, filmmakers, and more from the world of music for film, television, and video games, talking about their work and answering your questions. Film Music Live is sponsored by the Film Music Network and Film Music Institute. And now the host of Film Music Live, Daniel Schweiger.
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Schweiger, and welcome to Film Music Live, the show where you get to ask the questions to today's top composers. I'm happy to have you here. 30 body count score years ago, a budding composer named MARCO BELTRAMI went full bloody flower when his raging, wonderfully over-the-top symphonic score with a bit of country twang became the signature sound of Scream. Wes Craven's made a slasher satire also put screenwriter Kevin Williamson on the map with his cunningly satiric script with real thrills. Beltrami stayed the course with Craven over 3 more Scream pictures and other collaborations like Red Eye and the Williamson scripted Cursed, while the belovedly sanguine director was still stalking the earth. During those decades, Beltrami created dozens of classic genre scores, from Knowing to A Quiet Place, among nearly 100 soundtracks and 2 Oscar nominations for 3:10 to Yuma and alongside Buck Sanders on The Hurt Locker, that have run the stylistic gamut. Now with Scream 7, Beltrami's signature Ghostface sound is pulling him back in, with Kevin Williamson not only scripting, but directing a Scream picture that brings what's left of the OG family and their offspring back together to take on a new maniac who's donned the black robe and Kafka mask of a psycho icon, one who knows all of the ironic tricks of the serial killing trade, not to mention all the right musical slashes of the big orchestral melodies and screaming stabs of MARCO BELTRAMI, the composer who crafted the unrelenting symphonic sound of the enduring franchise that continues to count the bodies with a freshly terrifying sound that feels like it was only slashing yesterday. And now here's the composer whose big knife keeps stabbing him back in. Welcome to Film Music Live, MARCO BELTRAMI.
Hey, Dan. Good to be here.
Great to have you here, MARCO. Well, I mean, first off, congratulations. This is, I think it's made almost $100 million. It is the highest grossing Scream film of the entire franchise. I mean, are you surprised by the reaction, just how well the film is done?
Yeah, I don't know how these things work, but it's really nice to see. I guess the Scream films really have a strong life in them.
Now, Scream was really, your literally break-in or stab-in moment. I mean, tell me where you were as a composer when Scream first came your way. I mean, did you know that this was going to change your life, essentially?
No. It was really the first movie I had done. I had moved out to California a couple of years before that, and I did a TV series and a movie of the week. But this was really like a break for me. I wasn't aware at the time what kind of break it could be. In fact, I don't know if anybody did. I mean, Scream was a pretty low budget movie. And I've heard Wes's name, but I didn't see any of his movies because I never liked horror movies. So it was new to me. And when I went in and met with him, I met with him because he had an assistant that knew some of my music, actually concert music that I had done, and he liked the originality of it. And so I met with him, and he showed me the beginning of Scream and asked if I was interested, and if so, could I score it? Do like a demo for that, and I did. I actually teamed up with a classmate of mine. Well, not teamed up, but I borrowed his studio, Chris Beck, and for a weekend he lent me his studio, and I put this thing together, and Wes liked it, and they had a test screening in New Jersey, and the movie did really well. I think it got '89 score, and so Dimension Film, the newly formed Dimension Films, I think it was the first movie, hired me to do it, and that was 30 years ago.
How did you find the sound of Scream? Because and it's like nothing has ever changed through all the films you've done. Because like on one level, it's taking itself seriously, but the whole nature of Scream, for me, what it sets it apart, it's kind of like it's a super meta film. The whole series that Kevin wrote, that is also having a lot of fun with itself. So how do you find that sound the first time out that captures that sense of over the top fun, but yet in a way where you have to take the threat of Ghostface seriously?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was intentional. I think the over the top nature of it, not having really been familiar with horror movies, I just sort of tapped into. I would watch the movie and be completely. It was a ride to me. It was very scary, and it was basically my emotional response to seeing the movie. At times, almost operatic, like in the beginning scene when Drew Barrymore in the first movie was being killed, and her parents are right there, but they're not aware. To me, it was a very operatic moment, and there's all kinds of things. There was this lone sheriff who, to me, suggested almost like this Western idea. And then some things were unintentional. For instance, but which became part of the sound of the movie. It was, as I mentioned, it was a really low budget movie. I didn't have enough money to pay for the string session that I really wanted. As a result, when we were recording some of the cues, I thought maybe I would supplement the strings with people whistling, and so I actually asked who could whistle, and Wes said I can whistle, and couple of the producers, and so I put everybody out with the orchestra, and that filled up the sound a little bit, and that also became later on part of the sound of Scream. So yeah, it was a combination of my own over the top emotion watching it that Wes responded to. He found it genuine, and these other tricks.
I think the thing that struck me about your score for Scream when I first heard it is that you had an immediately identifiable voice. It's like if I hear any of your scores in that, I know it's okay. That's Marco. I guess you had studied with Jerry Goldsmith at the start. How do you think just learning from Jerry Goldsmith played into your scoring?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry, I think he, as I wrote, he became more and more influential to me. Like when I started out, I was still new, and I was like throwing everything into it. And Jerry was all about economy, like writing things as simply as possible for the desired effect, and also for playability. That didn't quite sink in at that point when I was doing Scream, but I did. Another thing that he taught me was the importance of melody. I remember vividly him coming to the class that I was in, and we would all work on these scenes from movies that he was working on, and he was like, "Can't anybody write a melody anymore? This is just crazy. What's the new generation coming to?" And that stuck with me. We had the strong character in Scream, Sidney's character, and so I wrote a theme for it, and Wes loved that. to him, it identified the picture, both her strength and her vulnerability, and the dark, curse that she was dealt, this hand that she was dealt. So, that was really encouraging that he liked that, because that was, I think that was coming from I definitely heard Jerry in my ear on that.
Did Jerry ever get to hear any of the scores?
He was aware of some things. I mean, he must have been, because I remember there was a movie, what was the movie that he couldn't do, and he recommended me to do it. So, but I don't know, like, I never played him any scores, and we kept in touch a little bit, but then his health started to decline. So I don't know how much he was aware.
Right. How would you say your Scream scores evolved through the 4 pictures that you did with Wes?
I think they evolved with the films themselves. The characters were there, so the basic tone of the music was set. But as the movies became, to me, each one sort of became a little bit more over the top. The movies themselves, and that sort of happened with the music too. I mean, we went from having no budget on the first one to having like a full orchestral budget, recorded at Todd AO for 5 days with a 90-piece orchestra on the second one, and the third one as well. So they definitely expanded in that sense. The fourth, I never understood. The fourth never resonated with me. I didn't enjoy the process. The thing was taken over by the Weinstein company, and they were I think they were maybe they were ghost cutting the thing in New York. I don't know what it was, but I was like dealing with these people that had no creative input, like not just Wes, and it really left me with a bad taste, and I didn't want to have any more part of it after that. I didn't enjoy that one, and frankly, I wasn't crazy about the movie either. And also, they said, they had no money, so we had to record, I think, in like Hungary or something. I don't know, but yeah.
But now now we're back to. I have to go back to the first Scream. Now, how much creative involvement did Kevin Williamson, who's written and co-written and has directed the new one, how involved was Kevin with the creative process? I mean, how well did you get to know Kevin?
I didn't really get to know him. The whole process that I was involved with was pretty much Wes and his picture editor, Patrick Lussier, who since went on to direct some other films that I scored, like that movie Dracula 2000, which he was really, the two of them were really instrumental in actually teaching me how to do this, because I mean, look, this stuff, the music that I was writing, concert stuff, really, a lot of the techniques, extended techniques on the instruments, and modern sounds lend themselves really well to horror movies, or textural, timbral sounds with the orchestra. But in terms of drama and how to actually play hard, they were very patient with me, because I really didn't have much idea about it. And so just going through the scene and talking emotionally about the beats and what we're trying to do, and how the music, maybe you don't want to play it here, you want to leave that, and it'll make something scarier. That was stuff I had to learn.
Now we've got a question from Louis Versalini. Hey, Marco Beltrami, the score to Scream 7 seems like it's on the surface anyways to pay tribute to some of the past scores you've done for Scream. Any references to any of the beyond the basic themes? Or
Yeah, I mean, so definitely thematically it does pay tribute, and in fact quotes, themes from the first. The thing that's new about this film is I never had a motive for the killer, like a musical motive, and this one I do. I came up with something for that, but the musical language is all the same. And in fact, when I did the original Scream, I had this old sampler, and I had some very basic sounds that I used, especially from this one sound library from this guy, Ryland Allison, that made this thing called Distorted Reality way back then. So I actually resurrected the old sampler. We got it to work, and I used the exact same sounds that I used in Scream on this movie as well, on Scream 7. So yeah, the sound palette, the musical palette is pretty much identical.
so on the nature of found sounds, I mean, again, a shout out to your amazing score for The Homesman, which really eerily used a lot of found sounds. Dale would like to know, is corralling found sounds and creating your own Kentucky instruments for something similar still part of your scoring sonic signature? And if so, what ways has this process evolved over time?
Yeah, that's something that we do on all projects. When I first get hired, no matter what the project, the thing is to come up with the sonic identity for the score, whatever it happens to be. And sometimes it's more orchestrally based, and sometimes it's more process sound based. But that's something that I do with Buck here in the studio. We'll find, a source that might be good to use in the Homesman. Right, it was the Aeolian harp, the piano that we set up on the hill out here at the studio. But it could be anything. In World War Z, there was I used the jaws of this southwestern javelina pig that communicates with by gnashing their jaws, and that became part of the element. In Scream, when I did Scream, it actually predated doing that. I didn't have Buck then. I'm technically not that gifted with computers and all that, so it was mainly orchestral stuff, just supplemented by a few samples that I had.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna have some spoilers here. I think enough people have seen the movie where we can talk. The reveal of the killers in this is a bit of a doozy, but I kind of pegged it early on. It's like, okay, I bet I'll bet you this is the person. I didn't even recognize Ethan Embry. When you do a Scream movie, is the end unmasking? Because all these movies, a slasher is essentially an Agatha Christie mystery with a lot of blood and impalement. Does the motive of the ghost faces ever play into how you start the score off?
No, the way a lot of these movies start, Scream 7, the opening scene is almost like a prelude, and it has its own arc to it, and it's like sets up the audience, and it doesn't. I don't know if it has that much bearing on the the characters and all. In this one, maybe it had a little bit more, but it's sort of its own thing. I feel like the story really starts after the opening scene. And no, I mean, there was no like score connection between that I would, show with one of the characters that he might be the killer.
How do you think that Sydney has grown in this film musically?
I mean, Sydney's theme has changed,
Or has a character? How do you think she's grown? How do you think
well, I mean, yeah, she has, over the course of these years, she's become a strong woman. And I mean, she was always strong, but she now with having her own family, her own daughter, it's become her mission to keep her daughter safe. The music was, so what I tried to do, and this was what Kevin's request was at the beginning of this project, was that he wants to start out with Sydney's theme, which is basically the backbone of the movie. But to him, it's almost like this family picture, and he wanted to have a theme for Sydney's daughter that would take shape and evolve and come out of Sydney's DNA, Sydney's theme DNA, but be like the new theme for the new generation. And so that was my goal, one of my goals in scoring this. And so like at the end of the film, when they're walking away from the scene of the crime, that's where you hear the full-blown new theme, which you hear spatterings of throughout with Sydney's daughter.
Now, on the subject of DNA, here is a question from Demetrius. Greetings from Greece, Mr. Beltrami. A long time ago, you talked in an interview about your Greek side, and as a Greek myself, I am very proud. From which part of Greece do you hold origins?
Oh, yeah, I am. I'm half Greece, but I've never been to Greece. I hope to go sometime soon. My mother is Greek. They were from, I don't even know if I pronounce this right, but Thessalonica. So I can't. I don't know. Take that what you will.
Now, one thing that really struck me about this movie is that Ghostface is like a Marvel superhero, not a super villain, in that I've never seen Ghostface really exhibit these kind of like insane powers to turn someone into a beer tap. How did that play into just basically this insane physicality that Ghostface has in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the things. There is a little bit of the suspension of belief that you have to believe, you have to invest in, in Scream movies, which makes it more part of a ride and part of fun than being something realistic. I mean, like some of these killings are so brutal that if it wasn't like that, it'd be really, really dark. So, and I think, having the music be also a little over the top sort of couches it a little. So, yeah, that's the one you mentioned is actually a perfect example.
Yeah, so that's definitely a memorable kill. How do you think Gail's character has? She's been through two movies that you are not part of, and now she's seasoned at taking on Ghostface. How do you think your scoring wanted to reflect her growth as a character?
Yeah, so I had a theme for her that was it was part of Dewey, David Arquette's character back in the old movies, and I brought that back for her. In this, there's also these very sort of heartfelt scenes with Sydney, and playing between the two themes, actually going between the two of them, was something that I think gives this some ability to resonate with the people that know the characters and the franchise. So, yeah, I think it added a lot of more depth to the film itself.
How is it having Stu back in a fashion here?
I mean, he was always great in the first one, and it was good to be able to score him. That's why I felt really strongly I had to come up with a theme for the killer, and even if, well, I can't say, but whether he is or not the killer, to put to identify a killer theme with Stu, I think that was that was something that Kevin really liked and encouraged.
Yeah, and I really particularly liked, like, there's this one kind of throwback sequence in the film during what you could call the Ghostface the Explainer sequence, where you're referencing all of the past Scream killers. Did you want to kind of go from theme to theme to theme, or okay, here's Scream 1, and tell me about scoring that?
Yeah, that was a little tricky. Actually, one of my longtime friends and collaborators, Brandon Roberts, we've worked on stuff together, and he helped out on this movie, and that was a scene that he worked on, incorporating the different themes together. It was a bit of a moving target because of all of the scenes in the movie when we started working on it, it was undergoing the most changes, and we weren't sure exactly what it would look like and how it would flow. That was probably one of the more tricky things. So that's probably why I gave it to Brandon to do.
Yeah, and obviously Brandon he's gone in his own slasher way with Thanksgiving for Eli Roth.
Well, yeah, we actually. I don't know if you remember this 3-part
Fear
Netflix movie
Street.
called Fear Street.
Amazing.
That we worked on together, and you know, he just nailed the sort of Scream identity of it. So yeah, he was. I thought it'd be great to do this together.
You know, now one thing I particularly enjoyed was even before Scream starts, you get the Scary Movie trailer, and it's hilarious. You probably have hopefully seen it by now, but again, you know, when Scream really takes off, suddenly you've got Scary Movie, you know, 1, 2, 3, and you've got people consciously referencing your music or trying to write like you for a parody, really funny parody. What was that like, you know, to have people try to step into your style to make fun of it, but nicely?
Oh, you're talking about the Scary Movies?
Scary Movie, yeah. And basically people trying to be Marco Beltrami.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really, yeah, because, you know, it's hard for me to identify at least what exactly, you know, whatever sound that I'm doing. But when I hear somebody else doing something similar to it, then it sort of puts a bit of a spotlight on it. So then I like, oh yeah, okay, that's what you're doing.
Tell me about, you know, playing the aspect of Sydney's daughter in this, and how she's kind of thrown into this whole situation.
I mean, she's taking over the reins from her mom, and you know, she starts out with this innocence, but doesn't want to be, but is thrust into the middle of it, and has to dig deep to find her Prescott DNA, and so that's what I tried to do with the music as well, and come up with you know, a theme for her that was based on the DNA of her mother, but almost inverted in a way musically, so that where Sydney's theme went up, hers goes down, and vice versa. So I could, you know, work almost the same notes, but in a different structure.
Now we've got a question from Ellengard. The first time I heard your music was for the Danish TV series Deep Water. You've since worked with the director Ole Bornedal many times. Can you maybe talk about the relationship you have with him?
Wow, that goes way back. Yeah, Ola. So that I met Ola actually after I had done Scream and Mimic for Guillermo del Toro. You know, Dimension Film, the newly formed Dimension Film Company, with you know, part of Miramax back then, started hiring me to do everything. And one of the movies they called me to do was this remake of a Danish movie called Night Watch, and directed by Ola. I think I wrote a cue for it at most, not much, but after that, Ola was doing a Danish TV movie and asked if I would be interested in doing it, and I jumped at the chance because I loved his really unique approach to film and how he saw everything so stark, and maybe it's in his DNA, not having sun for half the year, but it was very dark and appealed to my sense of aesthetics. So yeah, that was a long time ago.
You know what's really interesting is that you're kind of still one of the very few Hollywood composers who works in Germany and France. You did the incredible Messrine movies. What's it like? Kind of going to scoring completely foreign movies that may not come out over here, but you're still working on them.
It's a different sensibility. We're working with foreign directors oftentimes when you're not doing a movie in the States, because the directors often have final say on the picture. So you're really only working with them here, especially as the budgets get bigger. You have more and more people involved, and what it does, in a sense, is it waters down things, because you have to work almost like to the least common denominator of the comments, and do the least offensive work to everybody, which can kind of suck the life out of a movie unless you have a strong director like James Mangold or something, that where you don't have to deal with that. He protects you from it. But in many cases, it can be more, you're more aware that you're working on a commercial medium, where over there, sometimes it's you can really go down and explore things that you might not be able to.
Yeah, right. One thing that's interesting is that, when you did Scream, you kind of incorporated, electronic beats that were kind of the late 90s that really kind of captured the music that these youthful characters would be listening to. And in Scream 7, obviously it's all they've got kids now. But you kind of capture that kind of pop, very subtle pop sensibility to the electronics or the sampling that you're using. What was it like, kind of capturing that, maybe what electronics were doing in 1997 to what they're doing now at the time of this release?
Yeah, I mean, back then I thought it was really cutting edge, the stuff that the sounds that I was finding. I actually used the same sounds on this one. I wasn't trying to be modern or anything. I figured I'd leave that to the songs, but no, it was I basically used the exact same sound loops and sound libraries that I had back then.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this brings us back to Dale. Again, Buck Sanders is such an essential part of what you do. I mean, how has the workflow between you and Buck evolved to this point? He obviously got, a co-nomination for the Hurt Locker as well.
Yeah, our relationship can vary depending on the project we're working on. Everything from co-scoring, which has been quite a few projects, like in The Hurt Locker, to score producer. Sometimes he doesn't always get credit in the movie for that, because sometimes studios don't like to give a score produced credit because it means something legally. I don't know how that works, but what we do together in terms of taking sounds and creating templates out of them and manipulating them is something that we do all the time and have fun. And so he's here in the studio with me on a daily basis, and we work together all the time. It's just the nature of the collaboration might change a little bit depending on the project.
Does any of the kind of guitar inventions that he's done show up in Scream 7?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think there wasn't much guitar, and I don't know if we used guitar in Scream 7.
Yeah, it was definitely a big part of the first Scream. What was the most difficult kill for you to do in this movie? I mean, I think the one that struck me is the one where she's telling her how to shoot through the locker. And again, what's interesting about that is that you're having someone on the cell phone tell you how to shoot someone in another location, but yet the music has to tie the immediacy of that together.
That was a tough scene because there is, number one, there was a lot of sound going on. There's all this ruckus going on through the thing. There was also the cell phone. And they're talking. So you had to keep up this intensity of, like, there's a killer outside, and you want it to be intense, but yet you want to be able to hear what Sydney's saying on the phone. And so it was a lot of weaving around in and out of what was going on, and sort of crafting that. So yeah, that was definitely a tricky scene to do. Another one was in the school play. That we went through a few different iterations of that. I think the first thing I wrote may have been a little, maybe not driving hard enough for what the film may have needed.
How is it working with Kevin on this? I mean, now essentially, the torch in a way has been passed back and forward, and back to the guy who started out in front of his type or word processor. Because again, if there's anyone who kind of has an ownership with Wes of the whole idea, it's Kevin Williamson. What was it like working with him? And I mean, did you kind of get a sense of him coming back home in a way?
Totally. It was really such a pleasant experience working with him, and fun right from the get-go. From the first time we met, and he showed me the movie, and I went in there, and it was weird. It was like going back in time in a way. I think, even though, I didn't work directly with him on the first few movies, just, having this family of people that all worked on it together, I think that carried through. He would probably tell you the same throughout the whole process of the film. Made it kind of a special experience, and it was really enjoyable. He would come over here and listen to cues, and I would go there, and it was really a highlight, unexpected highlight of the year.
And I imagine he was probably you were his first choice to do this, to come. Was it difficult pulling you back in?
No, when he called me, and he was shooting down in Atlanta, and he told me about the film and who was going to be in it, and that he was writing it, and he got me really excited about it. I was like, wow. I mean, because the previous two, I wasn't, that thrilled about. I didn't know, it seemed like going off on a little bit of a different direction, but this, he made it really something irresistible for me to do.
Now we've got a question from Power Ranger Danny. Who inspired you to be a film composer?
Probably Jerry Goldsmith. I never thought that it was something that I would do. I came out here to do this program at USC, and he was sort of the mentor of the program that year, and that's how I learned about film scoring and kind of got its hooks into me, and I decided this is something I want to do.
Now, I think if there's one, the kind of the holy grail of Kevin Williamson West collaborations that people want to see is Cursed, but the original version of Cursed. Do you have memories of scoring the first of the version of that got redone, but before that all happened? I mean, I don't know if there's.
I do have some memories. I have good memories of that. I actually can remember being in my old studio back in Point Dume and having Wes come in and playing him cues for that. And I think I had a really strong theme. I actually worked with Buck. Buck had a girlfriend at the time that did these vocalizations, and we used that. And I don't know. I had a lot of fun with that. And that's the memory I have about it.
So no memories of what got cut or what the original version of the film was like?
I have no idea. I can't remember at all.
Now, Louis Versalini would like to know, is there going to be a sequel to World War Z? You know, we heard for a while that there was going to be one, and is that still in play at all? Or
I have no idea. No idea. I'm usually the last to know.
What do you think, the reaction, shows about the staying power of Scream? And because again, when you really think about Scream, even, with all props to the scores that Brian Tyler did on the last two movies, and even with Final Destination, where he was paying tribute to Shirley Walker, that your imprimatur, the sound that you brought is definitely all over the last two movies. Because, I think, again, when people think of Scream, they think, okay, Marco's music, that signature sound.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question?
Oh, no, basically the importance of your music to Scream, to the entire franchise.
I like to think it was part of the package, the Scream identity. I don't know how indispensable or not, but certainly I was definitely I was completely amazed by the long-lasting life of Scream and how well it's doing, and all the fan support, and I'm amazed. I get all these messages talking about how the score is so important for so many people, and it makes me feel good. The one thing I have to say I feel bad about is everyone's asking me about a soundtrack for the movie, and I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why. I've reached out to the studio countless times, and the record companies have, and I don't know why it's not happening. So I feel bad for the fans that have been requesting it, and I hope that it'll happen soon. But it's out of my control. Once I write the score, I don't own the music. It's the property of the studio.
Well, come on, Spyglass, let's make this happen. I mean, this is like an insane hit. And again, it's crazy when you look at the whole history of the soundtrack releases of your underscore. Literally, people had to wait a couple of years for Scream to actually properly come out. So you have a kind of weird history with Scream in terms of getting your scores out. I mean, so many of them are on Varese Saraband now.
Yeah. So you're right. Maybe they're figuring they want to keep it in that vein of not delivering the score.
So can I ask what's ahead for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're finishing right now this Unabomber movie. They're mixing it this week. And I have a project coming up with Bong Joon-ho, who we did Snowpiercer together. And I think everybody knows who he is now after Parasite. And then I have this movie with this French director, Jean-Francois Richet, period piece about Quasimodo, which should be fun.
Wow, very, very cool. And I guess my kind of wrap up question, as it were, is that obviously, you've got a Unabomber score coming out, and you've definitely scored movies about, real life killers. What's the biggest difference for you between scoring a Ghostface and the Unabomber, kind of a fantastical killer and a real one?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the main differences that comes to me is that in Scream, it's you can afford to be over the top, and in fact, it's welcomed. It's what it needs. But in the case of a real life killer, it's all about. There's no superhero killers. It's all about subtlety and finesse in terms of getting to the emotional heart of what drives a person and their motivations. So it's a different, more introspective look rather than a outer appearance, I think.
Yeah, and again, I think, in my opinion, you've scored two of the greatest science fiction films ever made. One is Knowing, and the other is Snowpiercer, which is, Bong's kind of Hollywood breakthrough. What can we expect from the cartoon he's doing?
It's very unexpected. It's like if you had a Pixar type movie that had a nuclear catastrophe in it. So it's very dark in many ways.
Well, let's see if we have talking animals involved in that. Marco, I want to thank you so much for joining us at Film Music Live. I want you all to see Scream 7 now in theaters. Let's make an album happen. Thanks to Dan Goldwasser at scoringsections.com for his Marco Beltrami photos. A big thanks to Buck Sanders, our show producer Dale Turner, our graphic designer Mark Manning, and I'll be seeing you on the next episode of Film Music Live. Keep stabbing, Marco. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Dan.